to change is essentially inertia. It's people's unwillingness to change because they don't believe they can make a difference, because they don't understand why. They hear the strategy, but they don't understand how the execution and their day-to-day targets link to that strategy. So what we try to do here is to find ways in which we can actually link the work that people do day-to-day to the business strategy as a whole. There's a major US retailer called SuperValu. They have 5,000 stores right across the US and many different brands. And in order to connect their store managers together, they used to hold a conference once a year. So all the store managers would come together once a year and share best practices. And that was a successful event. It was a 5-day event, and the CEO would stand in front of them, and then in the evenings he would walk around and he would meet some of the store managers. Well, they changed all of that with Yammer about a year ago. They gave all the store managers tablets, and now they walk around the stores and they take pictures. And they say, you know, this is our store display. This is how we change the layout of what we do. This batch of produce has come in and actually it's damaged. We need to send it back. And what they found is they've got this incredibly active community now of all these store managers talking every single day. And the CEO is in there every single day, actually communicating with them, asking them what can we do differently, connecting people so that they're sharing and learning the lessons from one another. And they actually measured that the stores that were most active on Yammer had a 13% higher average turnover than the stores that were not active on Yammer. So, I mean, huge differences in an industry with thin margins. And then social intranet's kind of an interesting one. And this is obviously where some of the technology is, this one is perhaps more of a technology discussion than the other ones, which are business transformative. But this is about connecting information around the organization. So if you think about what social really is, social is about connections. So I might be connected to a gentleman in the front here, and he might be working on a document that 3 other people have downloaded, and then they might be part of 3 different departments, and you can see this web of connections building up. And if you pick out one connection, under it are all these different connections. And then if I take a second connection and make a link between these 2, then the 2 webs now are connected by that strand, and you can measure all of that. And all those connections can be people, it can be documents or files, it can be files that are in Yammer, it can be files that are outside of Yammer, it might be in your CRM system, it might be in your ERP system, it can be Salesforce, it can be Dynamics, it can be Oracle, it can be SAP. The point is that you have these connections between people, groups, and files that build up an incredibly rich picture of what's actually happening in the organization. And then we can do analytics on that. So now you can measure when the chief executive stands up and gives his or her latest strategy to the company. Did the activity pick up in the places that you were expecting it to pick up? Did it pick up between the groups of people that you were expecting it to? Did it not? Why not? How do we get to them? Is the message landing? Just because, so one of the things I was talking about last night is that we're sort of measuring the success of IT projects differently these days. It used to be that we roll it out and we'd say, well done, we finished the rollout, email, we got it out, then that was success. And then we moved with the intranets and things like that to eyeballs, how many people have logged in, how many people have seen the content. And today, 10,000 people saw the content, so we felt like that's success. And what we need to move to now is a more proactive way of thinking through value that says, just because someone saw it, what happened next? And what are they going to do with that information? So through the analytics that you can build up through this amazing, what we call enterprise graph of connections and webs of connections, opens a whole economy around analytics, which is really, really interesting. It also means that we have to technically be able to connect these systems in ways that break down silos. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. External networks is a really, really interesting space for us. So your organization obviously operates in a context that is broader than itself. Not all the smartest people in the world work for you. I think the founder of Sun said that once. So the point is that we all collaborate. And with Yammer, you can actually create these external networks that allow you to do some really interesting things. We do this ourselves. So we actually run a network for our customers. It has 4,000 people in it. It's about 700 companies. And they talk to each other. And we're there to provide them with some updates about what we're doing and how we think about things. But really, we step back, and they connect with each other. And they ask interesting questions. We had one customer that came to us and said, I'm concerned. I have 2 staff who are having a religious disagreement in our network. What should we do? That's an interesting problem. So they asked the community, and within 6 hours they had answers from the Ford Motor Company, from Disney, and from 6 or 7 other companies with examples of their usage policies, how they would handle it, and so on. And these are real-life problems. We worked with a government department in the UK where they had some cyberbullying going on, which was obviously reflecting real bullying on the workshop floor, blue-collar workers. And because we were able to look into that and do some analytics on it, we were actually able to go in and help them stop that problem and act on those bad actors. And perhaps the most extreme example of this, we actually worked with Transport for London. And we did something which was 2 things that were super positive. One which was all positive, which was around the Olympics, and they used Yammer to connect the volunteers that man the stations. And we did it for them in 10 days before the Olympics started, because they came to us and said, we need a system to connect these guys, can you do it? So we did it. And they started to self-select and self-schedule where and at what time and to what stations the volunteers would go to. But we also learned later that somebody posted on the network that they were thinking, they were upset and they were having a difficult time in their lives, and they were thinking about suicide. And all of these other people jumped in and started to help this person and to say, hey, we're here for you, let's talk about this. And they actually saved the guy's life. So it's just amazing how when you create a culture and environment of sharing, the changes that you can make to business results as well as people's lives. So there's obvious things like collaborate with partners. An interesting one is in retail. We work with one luxury goods manufacturer that actually connects all of their what's the word? The stores. The stores are franchise stores. So they connect all the franchisees of these stores that stock their goods. And these people actually give them amazing feedback about the products, about customer feedback, around location of stores, marketing, how you can be helping us more. So they're actually connecting that community and getting feedback from them in real time in a way they never were able to get before. And at INSEAD, we're actually running a fantastic project for them. So we're both using Yammer internally in terms of improving or doing some new and interesting ways that they can run educational programs for students, so connecting staff and students that are at the university. But we're also going to use these external networks to connect alumni. So now you have tens of thousands of business leaders right around the world connecting with one another in a way that is owned and managed by INSEAD, so they can add value to that network. And finally, events and conferences are brilliant. So we do this with our events. You can imagine today, at this event, the number of connections that are happening, the networking that's going on. It's very valuable. Now, let me suggest that the next time we run this, we should create a Yammer network, because then what we would do is we'd start it 3 or 4 weeks before and have each of you start to connect with the speakers. Here's what I'm interested in. This is what I want you to focus on. Connecting with each other before the event takes place. And then at the event, this session's fantastic, this one is terrible, I'll meet you here. And have all of this live interaction going on in the context of the event. And then, of course, keep it going for weeks afterwards. So now a 3-day connection becomes a 3-month connection. And we've done this, and it's incredibly successful. It works internally as well when managers take their staff on an offsite. Let's create a group around an event. And then people that couldn't be there can see what is going on. We've done this with leadership groups. So Telefonica, the top 100 senior leaders of the company, including the CEOs, are actually in Yammer networks, and they held a 2-day offsite where they had Yammer streams up either side of the stage, iPads, on everyone's chairs, and they were using these to communicate as the event was going on to form the strategy that became their what we call Bravo Plus business strategy for the next few years. So with that, I'm going to just hand over to Jean-Louis.